Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor Brains V Brawn II. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, getting you ready for our Week 7 exit interviews. If you haven't watched the 2 episodes of Week 7, please click away. It's a 2-episode week, so that's it. It's just episodes 19 and 20. So if you haven't seen any of that, click away. That's what we will be talking about now in the exit interviews, which I had with, pause for effect, giving you guys the time to click away, had exit interviews with Logan and Kristen. Really enjoyed both of those interviews. A lot of insights from two big players, two people who are obviously going to be on the jury, and a lot of insights there. I think that I'm really grateful to Channel 10 for organizing both exit interviews this week. And I also just am grateful to the cast. Honestly, like I've talked about my kind of like filterless approach to the season. I've spoken so much about the season on an episodic. All of us come in, all of the recappers, ranting with our own opinions about this edited product that we're seeing. And I feel like in the exit interviews, everyone's been so incredibly kind and gracious, and really loved all of the chats that I've had all season, especially with this like great kind of unfortunate boot order through the jury, but this great kind of like last couple of weeks of exit interviews, but like sad for the show to lose them. So hope you guys enjoy all of that. Also recorded a feedback show with Andy from Survivor 47, which I really, really enjoyed. Highly recommend that you check that out. This week, just the 2 recaps, just Chappelle and Puya. Loved both of those. Chappelle came in hot on the Rocks, Not Rocks episode. Puya and I had a lot of thoughts about how the episode on Monday night could have played out. And then Mike will be next. Mike will be on Sunday, and everything will change. And they've got 2 weeks left with 4 episodes, 2 a week. So hope you check that out. We know globalsurvivor.com, at Shannon Gates, covering US Survivor as well, Survivor 48. So much to talk about on Survivor Global for Survivor 48. It's already been a crazy pre-merge of the season. I spoke with Matthew Haywood about that this week for episode 5, and I really love that chat and recommend that one as well. So I recommend all of it. I've loved every podcast I've done this year. Like, I've really, really liked it. That's my opinion. Hope you guys enjoy it too. Hope that you are enjoying all the coverage. Thank you for checking it out. Thank you to our team behind the scenes, and I will leave you here with Logan and Kristen. Bye. Logan, welcome to RHAP. So sorry to see you go. All of the recappers that I have wanted to let you know we are huge, huge fans here at RHAP. We're very, very sad, but I'm excited to be talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I've been keeping up with all the podcasts. I love you all. I'm loving this season. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I have a lot of questions. Let's start at the end maybe and look at Rocks as the kind of final gambit. I know there's been a lot of discussion around the way that you handled that. I saw as well on the jury villa that the 3 people on your side at Rocks didn't know what Rocks were, and that makes things maybe a little bit difficult. So how did that discussion play out for you in reality?
Yeah, so I knew that it was going to go to Rocks. I had a very good idea that they were not going to split. I know that AJ and Miles were too smart for that. We tried our best to convince them. We did this whole song and dance and act that apparently Morgan was really mean to me there, and we had this fight, and there's a potential Logan found something, and really trying to create the vibe that we weren't going for strong so they could split, but that didn't work. But I deliberately did not talk to Kate and Morgan about Rocks at the camp because I had just gotten them on my side. They'd just been voting for me. So to get them on my side and be strong for me, I knew that that was going to be a challenge. And to then possibly tell them they might have to risk their game for me, I knew that that would be the end of it. So I deliberately didn't talk to them about Rocks because I knew that they didn't know what it was. But my one person I did want to talk to about it was Kristen. And unfortunately, she got stung by a wasp in the middle of our scramble. So she was taken away from the scramble and had to be seen by medics. So I wasn't able to chat with her about the rock situation, which is kind of where it all comes out at tribal, and they're all looking confused. And I'm like, oh God, this is not going to work out well for me. But I fought for my life. There is a lot that you don't say on tribal, which is fine. But you got the gist of what I did. I really made a strong point of those 4 are so solid. If you think you can go against them, good on you, but it's not going to happen. It's going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm really hopeful it doesn't. If you think you can go against them, please do. I don't want you to risk your game for me, but this is what I know. I've seen them since Brains 1.0. They are so strong. They are so solid. They're crazy. They're going to go to Rocks for each other. They've literally just told us that. They're wanting to do this. So the fact that they're going to do that, why do you think that they're going to get back to camp and somehow flip on each other straight away? It's not going to happen. So this is our only chance. We can get out Miles or AJ. That is 2 heavy hitters. And by not going to Rocks, and we saw it with Kristen, you just get one more day in the game, and that's it. At least with Rocks, you had a chance to to change the hierarchy and change the fate in the game. But unfortunately, in the moment of that, I think with them not knowing what it was a bit of a panic situation, and they just decided to stick with the safety of sending me home.
Yeah, well, there's a lot in that. I mean, as you said, like, especially for Kristen, who I'm going to speak to later today, we really felt like Kristen, especially, should have gone to Rocks for you. She was one who'd been working with you. We felt longer term. Was there any of that conversation with just Kristen, which is like, forget Kate and Morgan, you and I, like, you alone can take this to Rocks? And was there any like an individual pitch to her about her just keeping you through?
No, actually, that's probably my biggest regret of that tribal is it was a big scramble. I mean, I think JLP said we had 5 minutes to chat. Zara had taken up half that time with her talking. I'm pitching to the three of them about just the idea of this, how strong those four are. And I think that was probably my biggest mistake at that tribal, was not just isolating Kristen and saying, look, you're the smartest one here in the terms of the survivor game, of the logistics and the statistics of us getting further in this game. You know what AJ's like. You've been with him on Brawn. Like, come on. So that was probably my biggest mistake, not, isolating Kristen on that tribal and really pushing her to do that. But also, when you've been out there for 39 days, regardless of if people know the game just as well as you, or if it's their first time ever watching Survivor or playing Survivor, they've all been through the same thing you've been through. You've been out there roughing it in the dirt. You're starving. You are just surviving out there. And to look at someone and say, risk your game for me, I'm just not that type of person. I know I've loved the game since I was 7 years old, and a few of them had never even seen it, which is fine. It makes for an interesting gameplay because you've got people who have studied the seasons, and you've got someone walking in fresh and just being like, this is how I would play it. So I just couldn't look at anyone say risk it for me. I did want them to, and I tried to get them to. I've tried my hardest. It was a big swing and a miss, but it was fine. And I mean, it went out nicely. I think it was okay.
I mean, it ended the way nature intended. Coven on Coven, Rocks, violence, UV, Zara. How did Zara become the target there? Because we'd seen you and AJ. I mean, tell us all this time back to Brains 1.0 about, you targeting, or him targeting you, really. But, like, why not, like, Miles or AJ there as a target? Why was Zara chosen?
Yeah, there's a few reasons behind that. So on the IKEA reward, we scoured that place for an idol, a clue, anything. And we came to the conclusion, I mean, we had 24 hours there, so we tore the place apart. But we came to the conclusion that if it's not here, it's back at camp. And who's the most likely to find an idol? Miles or AJ. So we had a feeling that going into that one of them already had an idol, and the person most likely that they would not play it for would be Zara. Right. So that's why we went on Zara. But also, she had already been a target of the girls before, and that was an easy swing for them, for us to say, hey, if we're going to go on someone, can we go on Zara? They had a relationship working with AJ, so that was less palatable for them. So Zara was kind of the easiest target for me to put out there for them to remain strong for me.
Yeah. And as we saw, Kristen thought you would beat her in the fire that was not going to happen. So we had that as well. I'd love to keep taking it back to this vote that you claim to take out Karin. Your relationship with Karin, again, in its Coven way, so fascinating. She had saved you a couple of episodes prior by telling you to play the idol. She had let you play the idol, though, and you'd lost your idol and your ally and Laura. So what was that relationship like? We saw it really get close, I think, through the swap. Then she saves you, then you turn on her. So could you please just talk through being saved by her in that relationship? It's a broad question, but then, being, part of her undoing where she's going to go before you there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Karin and I's relationship was really multifaceted. We worked great together. We were really, really great friends. But I just saw how strong she was with the graduates. And we had a chat after she saved me, like the idol play. And she basically said, look, I'm not saving you because I love you and blah, blah, blah. She's like, this is for my game, blah, blah, blah. And she was really upfront that this was for her game. It was a self-serving move, and I totally respected that. I was like, sick. I mean, I get to stay in the game, so do whatever you want, babes. That's cool. But I think with Karin, it became hard because she didn't want to be found out by the graduates. She kind of distanced herself a little bit from me over those next few days, and she only really spoke a lot of strategy to Zara and Kristen, and that didn't get relayed to me at all. So whenever she would chat to me, it'd be a quick whisper here and there, and I'm like, okay, hang on, wait, what's the plan? Like, you're just doing a quick whisper. You don't want to be seen with me. You don't want to talk to me. How can I trust right now that, sorry, that's me. How can I trust right now that that's the actual plan. Are you playing me? Like, did you just save me for that one vote so you can pick? Like, I don't know what you're doing. If
Right.
you're not explaining what you're doing, I don't know. Like, it's getting hard to tell what's going on. And the plan for Karin wasn't actually for Karin, unfortunately. The plan for Karin, I pitched to AJ and Kayin and Kristen, but I really wanted Zara. But the most palatable option for AJ was Karin. So I needed them to put their votes on Karin, and I wanted to switch it back over to Zara. And I had a conversation with Kristen, and you only see a tiny little snippet where Kristen says, "Hey, why don't we just switch and put it on Zara?" And I'm like, "Great idea, let's do that." But then Kristen kind of backs out of that plan. So it gets into this big scramble of, okay, she's backing out. And then Miles is suggesting it. How do I flip this so that if it does go on Zara, when I come to camp, it's not going to blow up in my face? So it became really convoluted when Kristen decided she didn't want to flip to us, but then she went and told Karin anyway, and I was like, "What is going on? Why would you do that? I was on your side. We were gonna go and vote Zara. We wanted to keep Kristen in, or not so Kristen. We wanted to keep Karin in. We wanted to come back to camp and say, "Hey, Karin, look what I've just done for you. It was AJ that had this master plan to get you out, and I've just saved you." And it all blew up, and it went the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, where did you see kind of your options and your allies and the hierarchy at the point where Laura goes? And we had really seen like you guys at the top at the beginning of the merge, we had seen like this kind of all girls thing, which now looking at the jury feels incredibly cursed. But when that kind of flips on its head and Laura goes in this vote, that was shocking to at least me and probably you as well. Where did you see your allies? Because we see something like the berries with AJ, and again, I kind of feel like there's never been a lot of love with you and AJ in terms of like your working relationship. So who did you kind of see that you were trying to work through for the rest of the game? If you were getting out even like a Zara but keeping Karin on side, who were your
Yeah.
long-term working allies to like make a group to like kind of make a real go of it late into this merge?
Yeah, so once I got back from my idol vote out, or Laura getting sent home, I didn't feel like I had an ally in the world, and I really had to start working. I worked for everyone. I went to every single person. Everyone pulled me. I had chats with every single person. And I was like, "Look, it's Paulie all over again. I'm a number. Use me." And I really started reforming the relationships that I'd been building since day one. And I wanted to move forward with Kayin and Kristen. Those are the number twos that the two that I wanted to work with the most. I did want to work with Karin up until a point, and I wanted to work with Morgan and Kate up until a point. So those were the ones that I wanted to continue going forward with. Unfortunately for me, I picked Kayin, and I just did not see how close he was with AJ and Miles. I knew they were close, but I was constantly trying to encourage Kayin to make a big move. And I was like, "You've got all these immunities under your belt, but right now, if you go to Final Tribal Council, you don't have a play. There's nothing in your book that you can publicly put out there and say, 'I've done this.' It's not just I'm just saying I did this. No one's seen you do any of that stuff. So you need to actually make a move. And if you go up against AJ, if you go up against Miles, you're not winning. And I love you so much, but babes, we've got to make a move." So I was really, really trying to force Kaylin's hand at times. And I don't think he liked that. So Kaylin went against me, and he was ultimately my demise.
Yeah, let's talk about Kalen. So much in that. I mean, he's the one who shares about your idol. We had wondered if you felt that you had to tell him about your idol because you found it in front of him, or if that was like a real show of trust with someone clearly you had a really big relationship with. Can you please just tell me about that relationship with Kalen and yeah, where the idol fit into it with, sharing that with him, which he's going to share and like continue these like little, shots at you that are gonna end up with you going home.
Yeah, so it was a bit of both. So when I found the idol, I think if you actually look at the clip, you can see me go grab it, and then I look, and I'm like, "Ooh,
Yeah. Okay.
ooh." And I kind of do a double because
Mm.
as I'm grabbing it, Karen's staring me dead in the eyes, and I'm like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
And right behind her was Kaylin. Kaylin wasn't looking at the time, but I was like, I had a quick decision to make. I was like, if I do that, it's obvious. I was like,
Yeah.
I just need to grab it, and I need to pull Karin in. At least this is a show of trust with Karin. I didn't want to tell Kaylin. At that point, I didn't think he was doing anything in the game. I think he was just listening to what AJ told him. he would get upset after every person he had to vote out. So I was like, is Survivor even made for you, mate? Like, you're just enjoying the challenges and the coconuts. So it's like, what's happening here? So I didn't see him playing strategically at all, but I didn't want to tell him just for the fact that I didn't think he was in my plan at that stage. But he was right there. And if I told Karin and she saw, he was 2 meters behind her, so he had to join in. And I wanted it to look like a show of trust to say, hey, let's make this a 3, like, let's keep this between us, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yep, I won't tell anyone. I think like 2 days later, he just runs off and tells AJ, and I'm like, great, thank you so much. Walking away from that, I was like, if anyone's going to tell anyone, it's probably Karin's going to tell Zara. So I was really worried about that because I didn't want Zara to know. But Karin kept it in for a while. I think she did end up telling Zara at some point because it was a very public idol by the end of it. But yeah, I think that was the start of me having a working relationship with Kayin. And I really pushed on that relationship really, really hard. But at the end of the day, he chose the boys over me. So that's okay, but it just didn't work out.
What about Kate and Morgan, who, again, we saw really as options for you through Laura, through the early merge, and who also kind of end up choosing the guys? Like, where was your relationship with them when you meet them at the merge and trying to work with them through that merge?
Yeah, so that one was an interesting one. So Laura had been really, really working on them on Brains 2.0, and we knew that everyone was in a little buddy. So whatever your buddy did was kind of representing of what you were doing. So her working with them, she would come up to me and say, we've got them. I've got them in the bag. I've talked to them about this. And I was like, cool. And I knew that Morgan especially was not someone who really liked to go over strategy heaps. Once she got told one plan, she's like, okay, that's it. We don't need to fuss around and flip-flop and all that kind of stuff. So if Laura had already spoken to her, I didn't go up to her and speak to her again because I knew she didn't like that and I didn't want to piss her off, kind of thing. Kate, on the other hand, I was trying to make a really personal relationship with. We talked a lot about her work outside of things and my work, and I work in marketing. So I was like, I can help you with this. And I really tried to get on that personal level with her. So when they flipped on me, I was like, girlies, what just happened? What are we doing? But yeah, that was really hard. And then, yeah, towards the end, I wanted to take them further with me because whilst Kate was becoming a bit of a threat in challenges, I still think I played a better game than her strategically because I'd been playing since day one when the girls kind of got let off easy on Brawn 2.0 where they didn't have to make any moves for like 10 days at least. So I thought I had a better resume against Kate, even if she beat me in the final 3. So I was hoping to drag them a bit further, but unfortunately I got kicked to the curb before that.
Yeah, so that would have been like a real end game plan for you, which was good because at that point, you had gotten them over, hopefully, 2 rocks. Were you aware of kind of, like when you get sent to Baron and then Paulie goes, it feels like you might have been the split and like Karin was looking to save you. Were you aware kind of how dicey that was? Karin said that some people like Kate and Morgan didn't even know that you were actually staying around. They thought that you were going over Paulie. So were you kind of aware of the dynamics in that vote, or did you because that I think really heavily includes Kate and Morgan, who are people who technically do keep trying to send you out of the game, but then we'll come back to this 4 with you, which is great.
Oh, so you mean when I got sent to Baron?
Well, yeah, when at the Baron vote, when Paulie goes, how it was going to be maybe be a split on you, and then like Karin changed it, but she said not everyone knew that you had changed as the vote. Some people thought you were going home.
Yeah, no. So that one, I think everyone got a bit of their wires crossed. So even on the show, it looks like Karin's the one telling Kaylin and Kristen to put the split on Paulie.
Yeah.
That didn't happen that way. I mean, she definitely did speak to them about that, but I orchestrated that. So Miles had come to me at the well and he had told me, I've got an idol. And I'm like, babes, I know. I can pick up context clues. You've been waving that around basically in my face. I'm like, it is very obvious you have an idol. And he said, yep, so this is the move. I really want to make a big move. And I was like, great, I'm listening. And I was like, Kaylin? And he's like, no, not Kaylin, Kristen. And I was like, why would you pitch Kristen to me? I want to work with Kristen. Kristen listens. Kristen goes with the vote. Why would I do that? But I was like, yeah, sure, babes, let's go, Kristen. And then he tried to bring in Paulie to that. But I'd been working with Paulie or being around Paulie for many a day, and I knew that he hated the sound of his name coming up. He was going to freak out, and I knew that he was going to throw my name out there. So that's why I go to Kristen and I say, hey, look, your name is out there. I don't want that to happen. I'm not putting your name down. You'll get a vote from Miles, and you might get one from Paulie, but I think Paulie's going to put it on me. So if we stick strong as a 3, me, you, and Kaylin, and put it on Paulie, Paulie goes home. So that's what happened there. But it's really strange that the girls didn't know. But I did go up to Morgan and I did tell her that Miles had an idol. And she's like, oh, okay, I was going to put a vote on you, but I won't do that now. And I was like, okay, cool.
Thank you.
And I was like, thanks, babes.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if they were fully aware of where the split was going. I think they just got told we're all putting it on Miles. But I did tell Morgan that that Miles had an idol. So I assume she would have told Kate that, and maybe they still thought I was going to be the split somehow. So not sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, always good to assume Miles has an idol just as like a consistent thought, probably. But definitely, even from what we saw about you playing from the bottom I thought you did really well to, bury kind of Paulie and win that vote over him as well. And last question, I know that you are, a big fan of the show. You even know what Rox is, which is amazing, actually, apparently, in some of this cast. And then watching it back has probably been its own experience. I know you've had to like kind of speak to, I don't know, the fan base. I think being a woman on Australian Survivor is an absolutely cursed experience from everything I've witnessed over the last 10 or so years. So can you just speak a little bit to that experience? I hope it hasn't marred too much of it for you, knowing that, you are such a fan and we are such fans of you and we loved it. And people who didn't, maybe don't have great taste, we're certified Logan lovers here. But can you just talk through that experience?
Yeah, I mean, on the show, it wasn't like when we're out there as castaways, you don't feel that difference of the male or female vibe. I mean, at the start, there definitely was that element of the big macho man, and you see it in the tribes where we go to a challenge and the men just take over and all the girls are standing at the back because we're not allowed to compete apparently. So that was really frustrating at the start. As a huge feminist, I'm like, this sucks, like girls stick together, let's just get these boys out, they're doing my head in. But after the show, it has been really frustrating, but I mean, I was kind of expecting it. I think some of the comments are just infuriating and they show how toxic masculinity is. And I think there was one comment I saw the other day that it was like, oh, Logan running back to Kristen and Kayin to tell them about Miles' plan. She's just gossiping. And I'm like, hang on. That's called strategy, babes. That's called strategy. So when AJ and Miles do it, that's strategy. But when I do it, I'm a gossip. I was like, okay, so there's the clear lines in the sand of how you think about women playing strategical shows. And that bloody sucks. So it isn't a fun experience to hear horrible comments about you, to hear about your appearance, to say you've had, I mean, the amount of talk about filler in my lips when I've never had my lips filled in my entire life.
Kind of a compliment if you think about it.
It is frustrating. I'm like, babes, check out my Instagram from 2012. My lips have looked the same. I'll always be honest about whatever I've done. I've had a nose job. Love that for me. But I'm like, you comment on my teeth, on my lips. I mean, I don't have veneers, and someone said, oh, the veneers wear her. And I'm like, these are my natural teeth. Like, you're not commenting on Miles' appearance. You're not commenting on AJ's appearance. I mean, people are objectifying Kaylin, but that man is fine. So I appreciate that. But it's a disgusting place to be online when you are a strong woman on a TV show. But I knew that going in. I knew that putting myself into the public eye more so than I have been before was going to be difficult. But I'm a strong girl. So I will always clap back at the people that deserve to be clapped back at. And I think people think I'm throwing a tantrum, but I'm like, I'm not. I'm just sticking up for myself, and you need to pipe down.
Well, I love that. I feel like, you calling out the trolls is great. Definitely the double standards around. I mean, definitely, did you get any stuff about like being a mother? I feel like they always come for that kind of stuff usually as well.
Yeah, I've had a few a bit about just like how they insult me and then saying, hope her kids don't get that way, or hope you're not like that at home with your kids. And I'm like, leave my bloody kids out of this. They've got nothing to do with it. My child has come home with 10 awards from school in her first year of prep. So she is killing it. She's an amazing, strong woman. And I am a great mother. So don't bring my kids into any of this.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think the dads get that, but I know we need to wrap it up. I hope that it hasn't marred the experience so much, but I wanted to talk about it because I know that it's been a double standard. I hope we get a longer chat after the season. But Logan, it was awesome to chat to you. So sorry to see you go, but thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
That's all right. I'll see you on the jury.
Thanks so much, Logan. Bye. Kristen, welcome to Rob Has a Podcast. So sorry to see you go. Huge week. Rocks were threatened. You were trying a lot of stuff which I'd love to talk about, but yeah, sorry to see that you're here talking to me now, which is not where anyone wants to be.
Oh, that's all right. It's all been a wild experience. So no, this is all part of it. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'd love to start with, well, let's even go post rock. Let's kind of talk about the episode where you get voted out, where we see you're trying to work with Zara. I'd love to know what had been the nature of your relationship with Zara and trying to pull her over, and what were your like main arguments to her to get her over to your side with the girls.
It's an interesting situation when we are at the final seven, because what the graduates did so well is keep the graduate alliance secret. I had no idea of its existence. I knew that Kaylin and AJ were working together very closely. Miles and AJ kept their relationship, and Kaylin and Miles, very, very secret. I honestly thought Miles was on the out the whole time, wasn't working with them very closely, was just a bit of a number. So, and again, Zara was exactly the same. I had no idea that they were a 4-strong alliance. So by the time, last night came along, my vote out, I was like, oh, well, Zara's only just flipping over to them now. Karin's gone. I thought she was pretty low in that group of 4 over there. So I thought we could easily swing her, which, how interesting. Everything in Survivor is such in hindsight. Had she have flipped and jumped on Miles, she could have blindsided Miles with an idol in his pocket. Not that we knew he had the idol, but yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a big move. I mean, obviously, Rock's threat wall, the threat of Rocks before that was another kind of big juncture in the game, where you're actually targeting Zara at that time. So, I saw in your jury villa, you guys hadn't known about Rocks. Logan told me you also were stung by a wasp. So it sounded like there was a lot going on that day. But I'd love to hear your thought process, about kind of this massive round where you win the challenge to bring Kate and Morgan over. You get to a 4, you hope it'll win kind of on their split. All of that, and then getting to this 4-4 juncture where you don't put your foot down for Logan. So can you just let me know what your thinking was about kind of like getting it to that point, but then not eventually going to Rocks?
Yeah, so I know, obviously watching back in hindsight, should have gone to Rocks, but go back to that same position, I wouldn't have again. So coming into that vote, Kaylin, AJ, myself, and Logan had obviously made the berries. And yeah, of course, maybe it wasn't a strong alliance, but you go with everything. We've got what isn't shown is a lot of different alliances I had with people. I was from tribe swap. I had pretty much my foot in the door with every person in some alliance with every person, except for Miles. Miles and I had a great little giggle about it, and we're like, look, we're not going to work together. There's no point lying to each other. So let's just not strat chat, and we'll just come to each other if we're going to do anything. So, and don't get me wrong, we hung out, spent lots of time chatting on the beach, just, not stratting. So, come to that vote, I looked over and I knew that Kate and Morgan weren't going to go to Rocks for Logan, but also I had no idea that the Graduate Alliance was an alliance. So I was looking over and I'm like, I'm still working with AJ and Kaylin. I pulled Morgan in because the next was to get Kate out because she was such a big physical threat. So I'm like, I've got Morgan as well. It didn't even cross my mind to go to Rocks. I thought I had a lot of connections left.
Yeah, a lot of strategic avenues. What had been your relationship with Logan? Because we see you working with her. I mean, really through the swap, as you said, like one of those relationships. And then even, at the vote where Laura goes home, we see you close to Logan. We see you at the Karin vote, really working with Logan. What had been kind of because I see you guys as really close in that moment. So what had been your relationship with her through the game?
From tribe swap, I was very closely working with Logan and Karin separately. So Karin and Logan were also loosely working together, but I was working very closely with both of them. So I had great relationships, making them believe that they were my closest ally, that was one of my strengths. I did very well at letting everybody believe that I was working very closely with them. Hence, when you see me with a public idol that I hold on to for 4 tribal councils, it gets stolen on the 4th, is because I had such good connections with everyone to the point that they then believed, now I've got an idol, is that I would use that idol for them. So, I just sat pretty with my idol for quite a while, and then it got stolen.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I'd love to know about like Zara as your target at Rock, because as you mentioned, you weren't really working with Miles. He had stolen your idol. And we always see like AJ is such a power player, but I guess that's clear when he's like telling it to us in confessional. You guys don't have the benefit of that. But going for Zara as a target at that point over AJ or Miles, like what kind of lent your thinking to that?
That was because Zara, we knew that. So at the time, I was still working with AJ and Kayin. So I wasn't going to go with AJ and Kayin. I knew that I knew that AJ needed to be gotten out at some stage because he's such an incredible player and controlling everything. But Kayin was never going to flip on him. And Zara was, she was a big physical threat, which was the same as what Kate's game was. So Kate and Zara were big on the target list coming into, obviously, the final three with that endurance challenge. So, so Zara was the target for us.
Yeah. Well, you talked about, I mean, Zara was a target for you another time when you talked about how you've been close to Karin. Logan puts out this kind of Karin plan and you try to flip the number onto Zara. A lot going on here. I'd love to kind of, firstly get your approach to that vote. And if you'd ever thought about like maybe using Karin to do like, again, like more of a flip on someone, say like a Miles, if you're not working with him, or if in the avenues you thought you had, you were going with kind of the plan with everyone in your social way, but then kind of trying to like, massage it to the point where you get to keep a Karin over Zara, which does not work out. But I'd love to kind of hear your approach on that vote, going with those numbers that you've created with the berries, but then trying to keep Karin in that.
Yes. Okay. So when I said that I was working with pretty much everyone except for Miles, I wasn't working directly with Zara. My connection with Zara was through Karin. They're obviously close, so working with Karin was working with Zara. So for my game, for Karin to go home, it's really bad because then I lose two people because I'm not working with Zara. So I went and I chatted to everyone. The thing is, it's AJ's plan. AJ has such control of this game. You cannot change anything unless you can get people on board. So I went and did all the chats that I needed to have. I talked to Kate and Morgan and it's like, look, would you be interested in flipping? And you have to be very careful about how you have these conversations with people because AJ has all these people going back to him and telling them everything, which you're not 100% sure on who it is. But yeah, what AJ did amazingly was that connection with Kate. That was such a secret relationship that was very well done. So I went around and I felt out the waters to see if anyone was going to flip, and they were all sticking to this Zara plan. Sorry, the Karin plan. So I decided that I was going to flip, but because I couldn't go and find Kayin and AJ had disappeared. I really wanted to talk to Kayin to try and flip his, and that was also when I got stung by the wasp. So
that was when you got stung by the wasp? Oh my God.
Was it then? It was, I couldn't have the conversation with Kayin, couldn't find him, and AJ disappeared as well. And so my only solid way to try and save Karin was to get her to put her vote on Zara as well. So I had a few minutes before Tribal Council because my plan was to try and contact her, whisper to her at Tribal Council, but I had that moment. I went with it because I knew that I couldn't tell Karin. Sorry, your question is, tell Karin so we could plan something. I had the conversations with everyone and everyone wasn't going to change a plan. So if Karin finds out, that's me blowing up my game. 100% everyone will know that it was me that told Karin because she will blow it all up. Everyone will find out. The vote will then potentially turn onto me. So my only way was to try and flip the vote and save Karin.
Yeah, I'm just worried that there's like a wasp nest out there that kept like that. I'm just like concerned about the wasp situation that I'm hearing about. I mean, with Karin, couldn't you have turned just your own vote? Because it was like a 4-3-2, and then you could have made it like a 3-4-2 without Karin. Was there any thought of not telling Karin, or did you need to tell Karin about the plan there to save her?
Well, that's where because I don't talk to Miles, I wasn't 100% sure because he was on Karin, but then he was going to flip across to Zara. So I didn't know where his vote was going. And I couldn't find AJ and Kayin at the end.
Right.
So I didn't know the solid numbers. So that was if I just flipped the vote and it was only Kate, Morgan and myself on Zara, then Karin's going home. I flipped the vote. I've thrown myself out there for no reason. So that was
I hear that for sure. I mean, well, I'd love to talk about AJ because you said AJ's had a lot of control. It really felt like AJ, you were the most impervious, I thought, to AJ's charms. Like it felt like he kept trying with you and you were kind of stonewalling him at times, which has honestly been rare through this merge. But then you do have the working relationship with him. Can you please explain this dynamic to me with AJ?
AJ is incredible at what he does. So yes, he sent home my two closest allies, Ursula and PD. So, of course, I don't trust him. I don't want to work with him. But this is a game of Survivor. You can't shut any walls down because it's going to close off things. So stay open to it all. And just the way AJ can make you believe what he wants you to believe. So, yeah, I was pretty good at seeing through it all, but I was just using what I needed to use when I needed to use it with him. So I was still working with him.
And what about Kaylin? I mean, we see snippets of like this seeming like a really good relationship with Kaylin, and I feel like we don't see enough of either of you. So that was probably a bit of a buried relationship. So can you just tell me about what that relationship had been like from the swap and onwards?
Yeah, so right at the start of Tribe Swap, Kaylin and I hadn't worked together at the start of that. We had our alliances and I was working with him through AJ type thing. But then, especially once we got to merge and PD went home, Kaylin and I, friendship had been building. And by then, Kaylin and I were best buddies. And none of that was shown. And yeah, we worked very closely together. Not much strap between us, but just keeping each other informed and working together in different votes. Yeah, so that's by the time it's getting near the end of my game there, I'm realizing that Kaylin is doing so much more than everyone thinks. So I believe that I was his best buddy, that we were just working together. Hence why I come to Rocks. My best buddy's over there. He's best buddies with AJ. I am safe as houses here. But Kaylin had that relationship with so many people. So, yeah, he was playing a very, very good game. Kaylin and AJ are very good at making you believe that you're their best friends.
Yeah, and seemingly hiding it a lot on the show itself. But people in the X interviews, and it is a running theme. People come out and are like, Kaylin really got me. So he was definitely doing a lot there. I'd love to talk about Paulie. Like I saw on the jury villa, not a lot of love lost on that first night. It was a bit of a brutal welcome, to the point where you literally got up and left and were like, this was really not what I anticipated coming into jury villa. And Paulie was a lot of that. He felt like you dragged his name through the mud. You were like, but you lied to me, and like the back and forth. We saw that through the swap, and obviously I don't think you were really as much together in the merge. Can you talk through this dynamic? Because I'm sure it probably goes back to OG Brawn, right? There was like a Nash group and a non-Nash group, and even then it felt like there was a divide. So felt like probably weeks of tension exploded on that jury villa night.
Yes. So coming into Jury Villa, I just wanted to melt into the ground and disappear. I wasn't expecting that reception. Look, I think that the easiest way for me to explain this is for the viewer, it's not just one or two people saying that Paulie is untrustworthy. It is the whole tribe. So that kind of tells you a lot in itself. We've got 48 hours of camp time and game time put into an hour. So there is a lot you don't see. And so I think a lot of it came out at the Jury Villa conversation is, yeah, Paulie wanted to try and throw it on me, throw it on anyone, why he wasn't trusted, why no one could work with him. But as I say, I'm like, Paulie, and I gave him all the reasons. I'm like, you've lied to my face. I've been in the conversations you're lying to me about. And he'd get to a point and he'd be like, oh, yeah, I did do that. And then like a day or two later, again, in front of other people, oh, Kristen, why have you told everyone that I'm lying and untrustworthy? So, yeah, I think Jury Villa was his last-ditch effort to try and clear his name. But sorry, Paulie, we do love you. We're all friends out of the game. But in the game, no one could trust you and no one could work with you. And you did that yourself. And you know it.
We saw so much of that at Brawn, where, I mean, was it Brawn? Yeah, you guys were Brawn 2.0, where the swap happened and you guys were on the bottom, and it felt like this was a tough one because it was like Ursula wanted to flip and Noonan wanted to flip and you wanted to flip, and I think Paulie actually was trying to hold it down. But like, in your perspective, how did you kind of see this? Because we thought, especially the Noonan vote, you were such a big part of that, where like you had an idol, Paulie had an idol. It was like something could have been done here, but not if the Brains had you. And I think that they did. At what point were you like, I'm out of Brawn and I'm with these Brains? And like looking at the swap in that way as like a Brains v Brawn situation?
The first vote when we went to Tribe Swap, Karin and Logan came to Ursula and I, and instantly, of course, Ursula wanted to jump ship and vote against Paulie or Noonan, which is what the girls were proposing. And I wanted to, but I was staying Braun strong at that stage. So first vote was still Braun strong. And then when I saw Paulie and Noonan throw Ursula under the bus, which, good game play to them. That's what Survivor's all about. But then after that, the fact that they never came to me and were like, hey, we had to do this. That was when the lying to the face started from Paulie. I was like, I was there. And then Paulie then keeps trying to convince the tribe swap tribe that he's got all these connections back with the OG Brawns and that he's like close with Peter. So everything he was saying, like it was just lies coming out of his mouth from there, which again, good gameplay to Paulie. He's trying to sell something that he doesn't have to try and get in with those guys. So, it kind of just went downhill from there. There was no trust from there. Couldn't work with him. Paulie had really tried to convince me to use my idol for him. And then the next thing at the next tribal, he pulls out an idol. So, yeah, there was no trust with Paulie. And then the worst bit of it was I spent every day with Paulie. And by the time it got to, when we were on Baron Camp. And Paulie had a really tough time on Baron Camp. He wasn't enjoying it at all. Kaylin, Miles and I were enjoying the sunshine and the coconuts. And anyway, so Paulie had another moment with me asking why I wouldn't trust him. And anyway, so I said, okay, last ditch effort so we can build some trust, and offered him, I wasn't going to give him names or work with him in that way, but I said, if you hear my name, let me know. If I hear your name, I'll let you know. The very next, before tribal chat, my name came up and I knew that it did, and I knew that Paulie was in the conversation because everyone had told me, and I saw Paulie, let him know his name was told, and Paulie came to me and I said, have you heard my name? And he said, no. Anyway, so I gave him one more chance, and then, so that was kind of the story with Paulie. Yeah. Sorry, Paulie, love you, but, couldn't work with you.
Well, how did that play out from Brawn 1.0? I mean, we didn't see a lot of that tribe. We saw it all very Nash based, and we saw you kind of on that side with, especially with Ursula in those relationships. I mean, that's going to play out. Obviously, Paulie's with you in the merge. We see that you're really close with Petey. Kate and Morgan, two people who you're kind of working with, towards the very end, are there, and they vote with you guys in the first vote. But where did you kind of see those dynamics, and then how did it play out with people like Kate and Morgan who are going to be part of your long-term game from maybe some of those initial fractures at Brawn 1.0?
So obviously, as you can see, it's a very fluid game. I, at the start, was not working with Kate and Morgan. Nash from the get-go cornered Ursula, myself, and PD into this alliance, which then put us in the minority. The game has just was so fluid, and that's what I really enjoyed. From one thing to the next, you can make new connections, and it's just been a very fluid game. So at that stage, I wasn't thinking or looking and knowing how I was going to be working with Kate and Morgan come merge.
Yeah, but then you felt like you reconnected with them at the merge in a way that was better at times with Kate and Morgan.
Oh, 100%. The connection with Morgan and Kate, ended up being excellent. It was like, obviously, we all had a great friendship and connection, but we were so lucky at Brawn, the original Brawn camp, because we didn't have to go to tribal much. So there wasn't a lot of strat going on. There was just we were hanging out, spending time. So, but so our friendship was there, and then come to tribe merge. We instantly, you have those OG Brawn connections as well. And then, you share all your stories, and you end up working together as I was working with everyone.
Yeah, and I mean, in working with everyone, had you been able to get through this vote, maybe bring Zara on side, how did you see the end game? Who did you think you wanted to cut next? Who did you think you wanted to sit next to? Like, what was your winning path as we were so close to the end of you kind of seeing how it was laid out in the next week of the game?
Yep, my end game, my end five were going to be Kaylin and AJ and Logan and Morgan and myself. That was my end five that I was looking at. And then I knew that AJ and Logan would just implode on each other, so that was going to be easy. So the final three, Kaylin, myself, and Morgan, was what I was aiming for. And sitting at rocks, I could see that path because, Zara, I thought was an easy out. Kate had been a target for a while. This was coming from AJ's mouth especially, but that was all him telling us what we wanted to hear because him and Kate had such a close relationship.
Yeah. So at rocks, obviously, you if you had those options, you see, like, even if you lose like a Logan, you'll have like a Kaylin, you'll have an AJ. They were doing a lot of work there, I feel, I mean, obviously a lot of good work from both of them. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously hindsight, looking back now, I got out last night, so I should have gone to rocks. I should have mixed it up. I should have seen what happened. But hey, with the information I had at the time, I wouldn't have gone to rocks.
Yeah, that's the vibe. How did you see the like, because they're hiding it so well. So how did you see kind of the hierarchy? Like, who did you see at the top? Like, if they're hiding those connections so well, and we see kind of AJ and everything he's doing, who did you see as like the real power players and like the kings and queens of the merge?
There's just one king, and that's AJ.
Right.
AJ is so good. He's controlling everything. That's why I talk about the Karin flip vote. He's controlling everything, and you know that he's working with everyone. If you try and change something, he's going to find out. It's going to flip onto you. So AJ is so good at manipulating everything the way that he wants it, but also just being so lovely at the same time.
Right. So at the time you knew AJ was in control, but it was more like he'll be in control with me, so that'll be okay. Not rather than like not knowing he was in control, it was like, but I will be like there at the throne with him. And that's kind of like, I think maybe what everyone thought about AJ's pathway.
Well, I think no one was wanting to be at the throne with AJ. That's a dangerous person to be on the throne with. And I think we all believe, like, because he is, you're working with him and he makes you believe you're working with him, and then you're going to get all the people out that you want to get out, and he makes you believe this. So,
like, just a last question. Obviously, what are your feelings in the moment to get your idol stolen, to have your food later stolen? Like, this was a double robbery that is, rare. First idol stolen in global Survivor history. Rare to have food stolen as well. Like, well, I think because you're such a people pleaser, Kristen, everyone knew that you're too nice to everyone, that they knew that they could kind of do this. Obviously, you're only one of two people with an idol as well. But what were kind of your feelings in the moment of that?
look, you have to respect the game. So when Miles stole my idol, of course, I was absolutely devastated because I couldn't save PD. You could see instantly where this was going. And yes, that was devastating. But afterwards, when we then win the reward and we're sitting at the burger shack, Miles says to me, he's like, "Oh, you must be pissed off at me, Kristen." I said, "No, I admire the move. Like, it was a good move. It was a big move. I'm actually pissed off at AJ because he knew that PD was my closest ally, and he had promised me he wouldn't get him out." So, you can't get annoyed at people, but you then do use those situations to think about who you are going to work with, who you are going to continue to trust. And then my food stolen. Look, lasagna is my absolute favorite. My 101-year-old grandma, she turned 101 on Saturday. She makes me lasagna, and I'm so excited to eat it. But you know what? Kate's so sweet, and there's nothing you can do about it. Look, I can chuck a hissy fit, I can whinge, I can sook, but it's still not going to get me any lasagna. So, it is what it is. It's the game of Survivor.
There was a lot of emotion on the island. I feel like everyone knew that you were the one who was just gonna like bring it back to them with sunshine, even when they were literally robbing you, literally stealing from you, that you would come back and be more pleasant than maybe some other people were when they'd lost a lot less than like an idol and a lasagna.
Yes, but I also see that there's no point. It's kind of how I live life. When there's a shitty situation, you can be pissed off and angry, but then you're in a shitty situation in a shitty mood. So you may as well be in a shitty situation in a good mood, kind of like Baron Camp. That was a shitty situation that tried to keep the sunshine in.
Yeah, well, there's probably some good life lessons in that. But thank you so much, Kristen, for explaining your game, giving us a life lesson on the way out. It was great to watch you, and thank you so much for being on the podcast.
No worries. Thanks so much, Shannon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.